Hello, and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the comments section below. So today I'm going to talk to you about maintaining an indoor fairy garden. We made this fairy garden in another video. I'll probably put the link below so you can see how it was made. And now we are going to talk a little bit about maintenance. I talked about it in the other video as well, but I wanted to show you the garden now and discuss how to keep it well maintained. So one thing to keep in mind is you do want to prune back the plants that you planted. First of all, you want to start with plants that do tend to stay small, ideally fairy garden plants. And then ones for growing indoors as well. So the pink polka dot plant here, Hypoestes, it does really well indoors. So that's why I have it growing here. It does need occasional pruning. So I'm going to do a little pruning right now on this. You can see now even some maintenance things that you would want to do. I originally had her pointing forward, so I'm just checking. Okay, so she's still facing forward. Of course, we could have little elves, such as little children could come along and switch things around for you a little bit, so check on that. Sometimes we have some the colorful marbles here. We need the blue scheme here, so sometimes you can move those a bit. You can take a brush, a paint brush, and brush those off a little bit to keep them cleaned up a little bit that way. Just so move things around a little bit. I have birds that are attached to this guy, but it kind of fell, so I can squeeze that a little bit, make it stay upright if possible. There we go. So that kind of thing, that kind of clean up the outer side of the pot as well, because this is pretty much what you're doing here is you're creating an indoor showpiece, and people love to come and take a look. We did have somebody that did contribute to this, kind of like a wishing well, a penny here. So that penny was added to the fairy garden. It's actually a 2019 penny. So it was put in the back here behind the horse, but you can put it wherever you want. So I think someone had actually put it here on this little pink table. You can see the color scheme is a lot of pinks, which is another reason why I chose the pink polka dot plant. And then we have blue in the bird and the blue in the marbles there. And so now I am going to do a little pruning, because the pruning back is very important. So you keep the scale. You want the plants to look, unless you're doing some sort of a deep in the jungle theme or the enchanted forest where the trees are huge and your fairies or elves are small, then you would want to keep them controlled, and especially if you have a traditional kind of a look, like a formal garden look, then you'd want to keep the plants mounded. The nice thing about the pink polka dot plant, you can do that as well. So what you want to do when you're pruning, you want to prune back so that it becomes smaller here and shorter, but also you want to prune just above where more leaves are coming out of the stem. So you don't want to leave open stem. And I do have another video, I believe, where I show this too, but just in general here on keeping your fairy garden nice and healthy and looking really, really good. So you can do them to the height you like if you want. Like I mentioned, if you have a little bit more of an enchanted forest kind of a thing going on, then you could go lower. If you really want them to be more mounded, you can do that. Take your time when you're doing this so that you don't cut what you don't want to cut. Good news about plants like the pink polka dot plant, however, it will grow some more. You may want to even shape the plant into a certain shape. Like I said, mounded or some other sort of shape. You might want to have one side higher or lower. It just depends on the kind of story you're telling with your fairy garden. Okay, so I've taken off a little bit, probably will take off a little bit more, or take a look at it. It's good to turn it around when you're doing it too, different ways, and see, okay, that's up a little bit more than I'd like. I'm gonna move the girl a little bit with the how funny. And I'm seeing now here too that someone came along. Like I mentioned, people will come along and add their part to the scene. So this little birdie was hanging up here, but someone put the little birdie in her lap. So she's got a little birdie in her lap, and another little fairy's rushing up to talk to her. And then we have the table with the special penny that someone also left. So that's one of my favorite things about the fairy gardens and elf gardens. I'm going to be doing a video on making an elf garden coming up next month. And that is that they tell a story, but people come and share their own stories as well with your fairy garden. So it's really a lot of fun to have an indoor fairy garden. Now, because you don't want the plants to grow that quickly, generally speaking, you want to go low. You go low on the fertilizer. So I actually used a soil, one of my favorite soils, Promix in here, which already had fertilizer in it when I planted, and I haven't fertilized yet, but I probably will soon, because I do see the plants are getting a little bit faded in terms of the color. So I'm going to be fertilizing. But when you do fertilize, use an organic fertilizer and use it at 1/4 strength. So it's very low strength, so that way the plants will get the nutrients they need, but they will still continue to grow slowly, because unless you really like to do it, pruning back does require some time and energy, and if you forget, then you've got this huge bush thing going on. And it's better to keep the pruning under control and not try to do a massive pruning at once, because it's going to look a lot more cut up when you do that way, and some of the plants will create a bigger stem, and it becomes very difficult after that to keep it lower growing and more in a shrubby, mounded kind of a look. Also remembering to water, but not overwater your fairy garden as well. This one requires a little bit of water, and I just water the plants themselves. I don't water any of the other area. There's no need to do that. And this requires bright light, medium bright light, actually, medium to bright. I do a lot of times will put it under a full spectrum light if it's not getting enough light, especially, and I really like to do that too, because so if you use some sort of a lamp or something, it will light up your fairy garden, so it becomes a focal point when people walk into a room, and they can't help but go over and look at it when you do that, and it will keep the plants very healthy as well. So I will be putting some different, some ferns in the elf garden next month, and talk about a little bit more in terms of plant variety. However, like I mentioned, the pink polka dot plant, which also comes in a green variegated mix as well, does really well for the fairy gardens. So that is that on keeping your fairy garden looking nice and enchanting and pretty. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.